Alrighty, welcome back everyone. It is Laughin' Games here. I'm back with another Starcraft 1/2 cast. That's right, it's gonna be more of this SC2 Evo mod, or I guess just SC Evo mod, as it is the Brood War versus Starcraft 2 mod with a professional tournament being organized and played out. And so we've got someone I've never cast before playing StarCraft 2 Zerg called Rumeith. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. They are a Korean player. I don't know what their main race is or anything like that. And taking them on, known as Cheese Maniac under this username, it's actually uThermal, the Dutch Terran YouTuber slash random shenaniganer. And so, ladies and gentlemen, before we get too far into this video, make sure to go ahead and click that like button if you haven't already. This is going up on the new channel, so if you guys can click that like button, leave a comment down below, and subscribe, that would be amazing. We'll set a simple goal of 5 likes on this video, as this is the first actual video I'm doing just for the new channel. And so support on that is appreciated. And then we have got uThermal going for a supply depot, but it's not one that can lift or lower like in StarCraft 2, as he is playing Brood War Terran, so there is no stim available for these Marines. The Terran player is getting a little bit cheeky, though, I think, with a double Marine opening. Going to be trying to maybe rush Rumeith a little bit. At the same time, he's got an Academy on the way. So maybe he is just going to be going for like a Marine stim timing on one base. Well, yes, stim timing on one base. And then let's see, Marines shooting away, doing their thing. Going to be trying to kill that Overlord before it gets across the map. Does it make it to safety? Yes, it does. uThermal does predictably lift a barracks, then immediately lowers it though. So he is able to get the kill on that Overlord. Gets a nice supply block onto the Zerg player, Rumeith, who is got a good scout off, saw that it was a double racks opening from uThermal, so knowing that it's going to be a bit of a bio push he's facing. For those of you that don't know, I believe in Brood War, bio isn't really a late game thing. It's pretty much just timing attack exclusive in Brood War, so we'll see whether he's actually able to pull that off or not. A few lings for Rumeith do run right on into the Marines of uThermal, so that's less units to muster for the defense. And the Zerg player isn't firing up any more units right now. He throws up a Baneling nest, but that's not going to be done by the time this attack hits. uThermal coming in with a medic and 5 Marines. No medivacs exist for the Terran player. And seeing as how we loaded into this match so quickly, I should specify that this is a full-blown best of 3, so this is the first strategy uThermal picked in this match. In goes the Terran bio, the Marines stim, the medic starts healing. However, there's 2 queens out, lings popping out. More medics do come forward, though, and all of a sudden, this is more firepower than the Zerg can manage, so maybe underestimating this attack a little bit. We've got 20 lings on the way. They're going to have speed momentarily, so they should be able to collapse on top of this army pretty well. uThermal even stimming reinforcements across the map, and the Terran player just setting to work on these units. He's a little bit trapped now, so maybe just accepting his fate, gonna go for what he can. He sees the 3 drones behind the mineral line that aren't mining, so that's a good start. The Terran player does have a solid wall at his natural as well, so Rumeith is actually electing to go for a counterattack instead of cleaning this up, well, with most of his units anyway. But I don't think that counterattack is gonna have too much success. There's 2 Marines back at home for uThermal. He's just gotta pull some SCVs to repair this wall, although he's not doing that as he was busy microing against these Marines, against the Banelings and Lings, so Rumeith may lose his hatchery as a result of his intent to counterattack that was maybe a little too strong. Broodlings finish up, but uThermal got a very nice opening with this attack. And the Terran player now has a command center done at the natural base, a bunker going up. The Zerg is in a world of trouble. Lings are going to clean this up as Banelings crash on in. I apologize for missing the micro there as I was looking at the counterattack. I should have clued into what uThermal was looking at on the other side of the map. But that was a very, very successful push by uThermal. Rumeith having a bit of a tough time. We've now got Firebats, more medics on the way for the Terran player, so he is going to be playing some form of Terran bio for now in this game anyway, but the Terran's in a very, very rough position, or the Zerg's in a very, very rough position, pardon me. Rumeith, he could potentially commit to a bit of a Baneling all-in. Looks like Hellbats try and get some of those Lings, and they do get a pretty good trade. Oh my gosh, Hellbats absolutely wreck Zerglings with the firepower from the back line that help Firebat stays alive. Firebat, not Hellbat. Pardon my my StarCraft 2 habits commentating this. I'm sure I'll get a couple things incorrect here, but now uThermal, he's going to push across the map, and he's looking to be in a pretty good spot right now as the red Terran player is up 44 SCVs to 30 drones. The Zerg is making a few Banelings, but as long as uThermal splits a little bit, he should be fine. And man, oh man, those Firebats were so good against the Lings. I think that Rumeith is going to be in a bit of a tough spot trying to defend this with Lings. In fact, Roaches may have been a better pick against just Marines and Firebats. But it's too late, and the Zerg is in a world of trouble. 2 Queens can try and lead the defense on this. We've got 16 more Lings being produced. Some Banelings tried to come from behind, but they were not able to, and Overlord's going to die in natural base building. uThermal basically just has to clean this up as a formality. There is no way Rumeith will be able to hold on as he types out the GG, and that means we get to go ahead and load on into our second match as, yeah, you never know how a match is going to be when you've got someone you've never cast before, someone that's not a common name in StarCraft 2. Rumeith could be a SC1 player who just really likes this mod, but we shall see as I click on that replay. Sometimes this mod takes a little bit to load in the replays. Hopefully it doesn't take too long. Okay, maybe I'll just do it this way. There we go. We're loading on in. So, Cheese Maniac playing Rumeith. We do see that uThermal is playing random, and Rumeith is playing StarCraft 2 Zerg. So, he is locked in on that decision, or pardon me, Brood War Zerg in this match, as you do have to alternate as part of the tournament format. So now, maybe if Rumeith is a Brood War player, they'll be more comfortable. We've also got a very cool feature on this map. Destructible ice crates. They have 200 health, 10 armor, and occupy exactly 1 grid space on this map. They are found on your main ramp. I don't exactly know what the main feature of those is, but yeah, wow, what a cool main base here. So yeah, oh man, look at that. That is a very, very bizarre ramp for that SCV to go over, but I guess units can travel over those ramps. So we'll have to get used to that. Now, as far as the build goes, uThermal had a lot of success in that previous match. Once again, he rolls Terran, this time StarCraft 2 Terran. So in theory, he could do a similar build to the previous match. And as the players have effectively swapped games while staying the same race, we've got Rumeith going for a hatchery and then getting multiple drones on the way. Brood War Zerg has to get creative at times. As for example, they don't have queens to spread creep, they have sunken colonies. Sometimes in TvZ we see them build a hatchery just so they can have that creep spread in the wall. As we do have that spawning pool now on the way for Rumeith. As uThermal goes for a barracks on the low ground, so going for a wall at his natural base. We'll see if the Terran player opens with something as simple as just like a Reaper expand, as Brood War Zerg doesn't exactly have a queen to help push away the Reapers, so there is good potential there for the Terran. As I say that though, uThermal elects to go for a Rax with a Marine and then a factory. So saving his gas, going for a very quick factory, sending out an SCV scout, as I believe this is actually a 4-player map, which is something we no longer get in regular StarCraft 2. It exists in Brood War though. And so it's very cool to see that brought back, as uThermal has to go for an SCV scout. He's probably not too happy about that. And it sends the SCV scout in very, very far. Like, he didn't need the SCV to go in all that way, so a little bit of lost efficiency on the scout. And if the SCV is just heading north, that means the scout is going to take pretty much as long as possible. That may be why uThermal didn't invest in the Reaper, and he just wanted the Marine to keep it home. The Terran player does go for that low ground wall off. Now going to be producing Hellions, probably? Double Hellions on the way, just waiting for that supply depot to finish up. And that could be very powerful if Rumeith just has Lings. He's now getting out Metabolic Boost, which actually gives Brood War Lings a bigger speed boost than StarCraft 2 Lings. However, I honestly can't speak to the base speed of them. I think Brood War Lings may be a little bit quicker than StarCraft 2 ones once they have their speed upgrade. We're also getting a Sunken Colony, which is a defensive structure for the Zerg. We do see that hatchery in the wall to give Rumeith the defense that he needs, which is going to be very important against Hellions coming out of uThermal. So Rumeith definitely having some experience with this mod and Brood War in general. So defending that, the Sunken Colony kills off the SCV, pushes a Hellion away. We do have a transferring drone. uThermal does miss it. Lings are now coming out. They are a few seconds away from having Metabolic Boost, though, so they probably want to avoid an engagement, just run back to that Sunken Colony for now. The Zerg player is macroing up on 3 bases, technically 4 with the extra hatchery that will also provide larva. And then uThermal just producing more Hellions, also getting out a factory. So going to be a mech style from the StarCraft 2 Terran, trying to pressure the Brood War Zerg. We do have a Sunken Colony morphing at the 3rd base, which I'm a very big fan of. Rumeith misrallies a drone into the Hellions, but Sunken Colonies are a very, very good defensive tool for the Zerg in the early game. They're an essential tool for the Zerg in the early game. We've got uThermal sending his 1 Marine forward as well. A Cyclone on the way with Magfield Accelerator, although he cancels Magfield Accelerator. I'm not sure what that was for. Maybe just to have the gas to get the extra factory going. So uThermal probably will want to build another gas fairly soon. The Zerg is now going into Hydras as well, which are... They're Brood War Hydras, pardon me, so they're just biological. They're not actually light tag, so they're much more tanky against Hellions than StarCraft 2 Hydras, although at the same time, I think they may have a little bit less HP. It's a bit tough to reference these things on the fly. Although, yeah, those Hydras, they do not have the light tag. So they are going to do pretty good against these Hellions, pushing them away. But as far as simple numbers go, uThermal does have a very nice count. He's also got that Cyclone out, so Rumeith has to head on home. We're getting Groove Spines on the way, which gives Hydras 1 more range, which is very important in skirmishes like this. Rumeith staying near his Sunken Colony is important, although he's moving forward, going to find the Hellions. Once again, Cyclone gets a lock-off on a Hydra. Good pullback by Rumeith. And the Zerg player is moving out on the map, but as we see, Brood War Zerg definitely looks different from StarCraft 2 Zerg. There's no creep spreading out right now, and uThermal actually elects to take this fight, just dives on top of all the Hydras, and is going to take a phenomenal trade against this. Brood War Hydras don't seem to have quite as much DPS as StarCraft 2 ones, so they have their ups and their downs. There is still 2 Sunken Colonies out for Rumeith. A very good decision to put an extra one in that mineral line that actually prevents the Hellions diving on in and killing off lots of the workers. Rumeith also saves that Sunken Colony for now, which is very important. He's got to replace the Hydras that he lost, as that was a big loss. Still, though, 1 Groove Spines are out. That's definitely going to help out. We've also got another hatchery building for the Zerg inside the main base. Maybe he's a little bit starved on larva, so that's why he needs that. uThermal is going up to a 3rd command center behind this, so it's quite a commitment for the Terran off of 2 bases to make all these Cyclones, these Hellions. Rumeith, meanwhile, is just trying to position himself properly. He's sending his Hydras out on the map, looking to set up a surround on this. I'm not sure if he'll get it or not, but look at these ramps. They're so goofy. That's got to be like the highest ramp I've ever seen in the StarCraft engine. We have those Hydras just bypassing a Cyclone. uThermal's like, wait a second. A scan goes down on the Hydras. As the Hydras are moving in, they're going to potentially cancel this 3rd base, but they are committed, all lined up very nicely for the Hellions to get some good shots off. A bit of a delay on the 3rd command center, though, as Rumeith comes on in. The Hydras are pretty tanky against the Hellions, even though they don't deal as much damage, it seems, but not a terrible trade for the Zerg, which does have a superior economy to uThermal. More Hydras coming on in, trading out with the Hellions. Cyclones are growing in numbers for uThermal, which definitely seems to be a strength. So the Zerg has fired up more and more Hydras. We'll see if he mixes in Lings to potentially catch in those Cyclones, as there's also more hatcheries building for the Zerg. A strong 56 drone economy compared to the 53 of uThermal. That's waiting for that 3rd command center to finish up still. Hydras being kited by the Cyclones, though. Great pickoffs for uThermal. Resources lost. The Zerg is definitely behind. 37 dead Hydras this game is no small amount. And then we do have Magfield Accelerator finally on the way for uThermal. That third command center getting established. Siege tanks on the way as well, as it's going to be 5 factory mech on 3 bases. 3 bases definitely what you need to sustain 5 factory mech. You need those extra gases. Hydras are getting on top of quite a few of those Cyclones, picking a good number of them off. uThermal holding that ramp, which are those ramps high ground vision blocked, which is a very interesting feature of the map, and they are, so you actually have to poke up those ramps in order to have vision. We've got uThermal now pulling SCVs into the Hydras, though. The Hydras may just be a little too strong for the Hellions to handle. Most of the Cyclones were picked off. Rumeith is playing quite a good Zerg versus Terran with the Brood War units. uThermal's mech strategy getting punished a little bit, as the Terran player is going to be bullied off his third base. He can maybe hold the natural with his siege tank with the more Cyclones that he's building. That's a big loss for uThermal, though, and he is definitely in a poor position. We'll see if he lifts off that CC or if he's going to try and save it. Cyclones are kiting against the Hydras. The Zerg is on quite high production, though. 66 drones. Zerg mechanics kind of hold true, as you can macro up very effectively like Starcraft 2 Zerg. So Rumeith has a huge economic lead as we pull up that income advantage graph. Cyclones as well are out on the map. Magfield Accelerator won't help them against the Hydras. Hydras are hunting them as well. uThermal doesn't micro them back. They do at least take out a couple Hydras. And now tanks are going to be very effective for Rumeith, or for uThermal, in order to defend against the Zerg. But uThermal's going to need next level efficiency, as Rumeith is going up to 5 bases. Great use of sunken colonies once again to kind of put a timer on the Hellion harassment that uThermal went for there. And then we do have +2 attack on the way for Zerg. Ventral Sacs allows Overlords to transport units, so we may be seeing Hydra drops into uThermal's very exposed main base. The Terran has reestablished the third base, but dropping is a surefire way to handle mech. uThermal is very high on supply compared to his opponent right now. We're also getting queens produced by Rumeith. They pop out a larva in Brood War, and so he's going to potentially use some of the abilities from those queens. And let's see, Cheese Maniac, aka uThermal, just holding on now, getting up his third base, dropping a scan. Something that StarCraft 2 Terran doesn't need a ComSat station for. We've got an attempted Hellion run by, but that's not successful as that gets shut down. Rumeith holding on to his very strong economy. uThermal is actually going to elect to attack, which could very well be the right move. If he can catch Rumeith off guard, a scan reveals the Hydras. Are the tanks going to siege up? Yes, they are. uThermal realizing that his opponent may not have the answer to these siege tanks. There's currently 6 tanks pushing forward. They're set up quite nicely. Rumeith is coming in. The tanks are completely unsupported. One of them wasn't sieged, so it's just kiting back. The Cyclones are coming in now to help out, and uThermal is looking to make a comeback with this big push. More tanks rallying forward, and that is something that Brood War Zerg can struggle with, dealing with mass siege tank. Rumeith is just going to try and do it with mass Hydras because he doesn't really have too much else right now, although he has made a boatload of queens and is researching spawn broodlings, which is an ability the queens have to potentially toss those out on top of the siege tanks. That can be a very strong move for Rumeith. He is being forced off this base. It's only a matter of time until the queens move forward to help shut this down, I imagine, though. So uThermal, he's going to get a hatchery, but then he could be in trouble after that. There's that upgrade done for Rumeith. He's building more and more Hydras. Supply is neck and neck right now. The Zerg is having to, or he's grouped up his Hydras massively, and it's a huge Hydra count. 42 Hydras for the Zerg. Are Hydralists just 1 supply in Brood War? That is definitely something good for the Brood War Zerg. uThermal's doing a great job attacking the 2 clumps of the Zerg army, though. This is something that's not easy to micro for Rumeith. Production coming from 2 hatcheries, and so far, we're not seeing the queens do anything. Where are all those queens? There they are, coming in from behind, throwing out those broodlings, kind of like broodlords, but annihilating uThermal's siege tanks. The queens get the job done once they have the energy for that. Man, this mod is very darn cool. As in comes Rumeith, pushing on in, and uThermal is in a bit of trouble now. The Hydras are pushing forward. There is 2 tanks at the back getting some big shots off. Rumeith is going to tie up these series. GG gets called, and the Zerg takes it with patience and the strength of Broodlings. So we're going to load on into the next match. uThermal playing Brood War Terran, I believe, and Rumeith playing Starcraft 2 Zerg, I imagine, if the match is flipped. And that is exactly what we are going to have here, as Rumeith playing Zerg in the bottom right. And I dare say his Brood War Zerg looked a little bit better. So I'm guessing, since I've never heard of him, to be honest, he probably is a primary Brood War player. Whereas uThermal is primarily a StarCraft 2 player, but probably a bit more at home because he does play StarCraft 2. And this is the StarCraft 2 engine after all. So I think StarCraft 2 players have a bit of an innate advantage over anyone that plays Brood War that would play this mod. And then, yeah, we have got Cheese Maniac throwing up that barracks. uThermal going for the same build as last time. We'll see if Rumeith is going to be more prepared for it or not. He's sending out his Scouting Overlord. Is this another multi-spawn map? I don't believe it is. It's even sides, so... yeah, this is just 2 sides. So that Overlord path is definitely a safe one for the Overlord, but it's also going to be a much delayed scout for the Zerg. And you need to have the information as soon as you can in when it comes to dealing with a push like this. So Rumeith gonna need to be prepared for this. I honestly think Roaches would probably be pretty good, because it takes Brood War Terran so long to get up siege tanks, as far as I know. Meanwhile, uThermal, once again, he's going for an academy that allows medics to be produced, allows fire bats to be produced. Medics were the main trick, so that uThermal could go for that very early move out, which was really strong last time. Then we've got an SCV scout moving out for uThermal, as the Terran player pushes on in to get that information. It's an early spawning pool for Rumeith, though, having that finished up already. Or maybe not an early spawn. Yeah, that's got to be a bit of an early pool. Anyway, the SCV moving back and forth. Stim pack on the way for uThermal. So gonna have medics, marines, and stim pack once again. As that first medic is fired up, uThermal's going to get ready to move out. He'll have to lift the barracks since the Brood War depots cannot raise and lower. The things we take for granted. Rumeith is investing for a spine crawler. Despite not scouting at all, he has a bit of an inkling, maybe getting a feeling from the previous match, and a spine can be a very, very strong tool in order to defend against unupgraded Marines. Even if the Marines have stim pack, a spine deals so much damage to them. And now Rumeith, he does see that move out coming. He's got his queens. They should be positioned on the front to help out with this. The spine should be done in time, and he actually fires up another spine. So I'm a big fan of this defense. Then just delaying the third base as a result, but absolutely worth it. And there's the spine done. uThermal comes on in, and he immediately turns around. As I don't know the math on Brood War Marines versus a spine, but with the 2 queens to support, I think it's going to be pretty good for Rumeith, as uThermal does almost target down the spine. It costs him greatly, though, as drones even got pulled into the mix for the Zerg, but 2 drones die. uThermal's attack is held. At the same time, the Terran does have that natural command center building, so there is a macro follow-up planned, but it was quite an early commitment for uThermal. Let's see, another spine crawler going up for Rumeith. I really like it, as early defense in scrappy situations like this, which is inherently the Brood War versus StarCraft 2 mod. I think it's better to play it safe than it is to try and cut corners and overly macro, as the unit interactions aren't as defined. We're getting the U-238 shells, increases the range on Marines. That's something StarCraft 2 players wish they had. uThermal then drops a scan using his ComSat station, able to see that hatchery turning into a lair as Rumeith goes for more tech. We do have a Roach Warren on the way, which I'm a big fan of. Still just 2 bases for the Zerg, though, so I think we will need to see a 3rd base go up soon for Rumeith, as, I mean, he's Zerg. You got to get up that third hatchery at some point. uThermal is now moving out on the map. Marines and medics pushing forward once again. Rumeith is making roaches. The carapace that he's got researching as well is going to be huge, but queens, roaches are going to be very big when it comes to defending against this attack. As uThermal moves out, he's looking to bully a third base, but there's no third base to bully. So uThermal may be able to grab an Overlord. He's looking to poke the front. He sees two spine crawlers and turns around though. But man, oh man, look at this. Roaches and glial reconstitution on the way for Rumeith. Just going to be a big 2-base roach all in potentially. As once he has roach speed, uThermal's just going to have to fight this with stim marines basically. He's getting a machine shop on the way, so tanks could be on the cards in the future. I would really like to see Rumeith push on out as soon as possible to punish uThermal. For now though, the Zerg is just getting up a third hatchery with the +2 on the way in the infestation pit. Rumeith is not planning on going for any sort of killer timing. He may be intercepting uThermal's bio though, which could be very, very big for him, as that is a big chunk of uThermal's army. Medics, Marines are getting picked off by the roaches. They don't quite have roach speed yet, but uThermal is going to be panicking. He's got a lot more Marines out, but these are +1 roaches. 18 Marines with 2 medics against 10 roaches. That is not going to be an easy fight for the Marines, even though they do have their upgrades. A tank is out for uThermal, as the Marines stim against the roaches. That's going to push the roaches away, so maybe a bit more firepower than I anticipated. And siege mode is now done on that tank, which is very, very big for uThermal. As we see the third hatchery going on up. One, 2 on the way as far as upgrades are concerned. So Rumeith getting, well, melee upgrades to potentially tech into ultras, if I had to guess, as he does have that hive on the way. It's so interesting to see the play styles that players go for in these Brood War versus Starcraft 2 mods. It really is very refreshing, as the play styles are not as defined. There's a lot more wiggle room. It's like the early days of any Starcraft 2 game, or really any game in general, where you got to figure out what's good, what isn't good, but then just having way more room to play around definitely makes things exciting. +1 is on the way for Cheese Maniac, so uThermal going to get more firepower on those Marines. He's probably just building to a big old Marine tank push, if I had to guess, staying on 2 bases for now and going for the +1. Meanwhile, Rumeith is making more roaches, having that melee upgrade on the way. The +2 carapace will definitely help out if he does go for ultras, and that's on the way, but the timing could definitely be close here. If uThermal does elect to go for a move out with all these tanks and Marines, roaches are good against the Marines, seeing as how they don't have combat shield or anything like that, but they're not necessarily the best against all the tanks. uThermal drops a scan, sees the third. He's got to go well. That's not a very big Zerg economy, as Rumeith isn't exactly playing like other StarCraft 2 players who'd be trying to get up to 60, 70 drones at this point before going into ultras. But that Ultra Cavern is about to finish up for Rumeith. That's really going to help him out, as ultras are just no joke in StarCraft 2, and we do see the Zerg player fire up 10 more drones, which is going to help him out. There's chitinous plating on the way, an 80-second upgrade, but there's already an ultra being produced. They start with high base armor. The +2 is really going to help them out. Although Brood War siege tanks, they do have very high versus armored damage, so they may be a bit more tank killers than we're used to. uThermal is waiting to secure up his third base. Rumeith actually pushes forward, but gets way too aggressive, and it does cost him quite a few roaches running into those tanks. He drops Corrosive Bile to cover his retreat, and now let's see. We have got that Ultralisk Cavern on the way. 4 Ultras being produced, and uThermal's looking to move on out. There is only 1 Ultralisk done, with 25 roaches to support. Lings being produced now as well. They take so darn long to build. Zergs can be waiting in a life or death situation, waiting for a few ultras to pop, and that's exactly what's going on with Rumeith right now. Chitinous plating isn't done as well. He's got 10 seconds to wait. uThermal is not going to wait, though, as he completely guts the third of the Zerg, and that is so much damage getting done. I mean, that is a huge portion of the Zerg's economy. Rumeith is going to try and defend with these ultras as, yeah, he's just holding the line, running back and forth, going for a big Roach counterattack, actually. uThermal does have one siege tank, which could definitely help him out. Roaches are moving on in as he forces a bit of a base trade. It's not usually the Zerg that goes for the base race. SCVs are being pulled into the Roaches. The one tank is getting shots off, but the rate of fire on those Brood War tanks is mighty slow. So uThermal has got to pull everything back, and all of a sudden uThermal loses a ton of his economy, and there's still potential for more damage. The Marines are heavily stimming coming on in, but the economic damage is being done by Rumeith. Ultras are now coming in from behind as the rest of the Zerg force pushes in. uThermal gonna lose his third base. This is actually so close that Ultra moving forward, it's actually got irradiated by a science vessel that uThermal has, but he's got nothing to counter the ultras, really. There's so many Marines, but they're one or two swipes away from being killed. uThermal has to stim again. There's no medivacs to get into. The irradiated ultra is dying, but so is everything else that uThermal has. There's tanks kiting one ultra like it's the Heart of the Swarm cinematic, trying to do what they can. Rumeith is on a very poor economy behind this, but he's got 4 ultras out, which is very difficult for uThermal to kill in this situation, and GG gets called as Rumeith is going to take it. Well played by both players. What a scrappy situation. Incredibly fun to watch. But in the end, Rumeith is able to take it. I'll have to do a little more digging on him as a player, as maybe I'll cast his next match on the channel. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed this best of 3, the Zerg player takes it. Very fun to watch uThermal play Brood War and Starcraft 2 Terran. And yeah, if you enjoyed it, click the like button. If you watched all the way to the end, subscribe, as this is a new channel. But I do want to try and put up as much content as I can on it. And then, yeah, just leave a comment, join the Discord. I'll see you guys next time.